Hi everyone, it's Miss Clough bringing to you today 9.3 Perimeters and Areas of Composite Figures. What's a composite figure, you might be asking? Well, composite figures are made up of triangles, squares, rectangles, semicircles, and other two-dimensional figures. Okay, so for example, I have a picture here of this figure, and it's comprised of a square and a triangle, makes that one composite figure. The next figure I have has a semicircle sitting on top of a rectangle, and that whole picture would be a composite figure. Okay, so today some of what you're going to have to do with your homework is to estimate perimeter and area, and you're going to have these composite figures sitting on grid paper. Okay, so I've done one, I drew it out here, but I also have it here on a graph to show you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to estimate the perimeter. And to do that, your job is to count up all of the outside full box edges, okay? So count the number of grid square links around the arrow. So around the arrow. So if we count those going around, we're counting this guy. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have 6 on this side as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just counting up those outside edges. So 6 plus 6 would give us 12. So there are 12 units going around the outside of our arrow. Now the next thing we need to do is count the number of diagonal links around the arrow. And so a diagonal length, you might think that would count as one full box, but actually it's counting as 1.5 units. So let's count up how many diagonal links there are going around this arrow. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll have an additional 4 at this other end to give us a grand total of 8 diagonal units. Okay, so 8 diagonal units. So I'm going to put that in here. There are 8. So I'm going to take 8 and multiply it times 1.5. And we get 12 units. So remember, perimeter is adding up all the outside edges. So that's what we did. We added up all these outside edges here. So we found out these edges here, that was 12. Our diagonal edges turned out to also be 12. So the total perimeter would be 12 units for the picture of our arrow. Okay, so now we're going to take that same diagram, but now we're going to find area. So the first thing we need to do is count the number of squares that lie entirely in the figure. So I kind of drew it out here, but I'm going to show you on this drawing. Okay, so we're going to count all the boxes that lie inside the figure, all the full boxes. Okay, so that means I'm going from here. Sorry, my drawing's getting a little muddled. Okay, so if I count from here to here, there are a total of, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 square pieces. Okay, so again, there are 12. Now I need to count the number of half squares in the figure. Okay, so the number of half squares. So again, that's going to be, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 half squares in our figure. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. There are 8. So I'm going to take 8 times 0.5, which should give me 4, because I'm cutting it in half. So area is going to be 12. That was 4 plus 4, 16 square units. Okay, if I went really fast for you, like I said, rewind the video, watch it again. All right. So that's how we use estimation. The next part of your assignment is to actually calculate the true value of a composite figure. So I'm going to do one example for you. Okay, so we've got finding the perimeter of this semicircle sitting on top of a square. Okay, those are supposed to be dashed lines in there, and I accidentally made them solid, but they're dashed. So what do we know about a square? Well, we should remember that squares have 4 equal sides. So if it's telling me this is 5 meters, then I know this side is also 5 meters. And this piece coming across here is also 5 meters, which is also our diameter of our semicircle. Okay, so this is also going to be 5 meters. Okay. All right, so the first thing when finding perimeter, you can find the perimeter of either object first. I decided to find the distance around the semicircle first. So we have to remember back to lesson 9.1. To find the area around the semicircle, we're using circumference and we're cutting it in half. And because we know the diameter is 5 meters, that's what we're going to plug here into our formula. So remember, circumference equals pi times d, the whole thing divided by 2, because we got to cut it in half because it's half of a circle, not the whole thing. All right, so now we're going to do our calculations here. And the first thing we're going to calculate is 3.14 times 5, which is 15.7. And we're going to divide that by 2. And that's going to give us 7.85 meters. Okay. Now the second part of this problem is we need to find the distance around the square. Okay, so remember, perimeter is adding up all the outside edges. Well, our square is only showing 3 outside edges. So I'm going to add 3 5 times, or I can just do simply 3 times 5 to give me 15 meters. So now I take my 2 values, the semicircle, 7.85 meters, plus my square, which is 15 meters. Okay, I'm going to add those 2 together. And so let's see, 15 plus 7.85. Sorry, I'm using a calculator, which you can as well. That gives me 22.85 meters. I put squared, but it's just meters. Okay, so that's how you find perimeter. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to find the area of the square, because that's the second part. Okay, finding area. So if we remember, finding area of a square is just simply length times width. So the length of my square is 5 and the width of my square is 5. So 5 times 5 is 25 meters squared. Now I need to, the second part is to go in and find the area of the semicircle. So from yesterday's lesson, 9.2, we found out that area of a semicircle is pi times the radius squared, all divided by 2. Well, we know our diameter is 5, but we need to figure out what our radius would be. So if the diameter equals 5 meters, the radius should be half of that. So 5 divided by 2, which is going to be 2.5 meters for our radius. So let's plug that information in. Okay, and it looks like I'm going to run out of room here. So A equals 3.14 times 2.5 squared, all divided by 2. So the first thing we want to do once we plug in our numbers, remember we want to take care of exponents. So we want to figure out what 2.5 times 2.5 is. It's 6.25. Okay. Then we're going to multiply that 6.25 times 3.14, and we get 19.625. And then we're going to cut that in half. We're going to divide by 2. And so we find out that area of our semicircle is approximately 9.8125. And we're going to add our two areas together. Okay, so we're going to take our 25 meters squared and add 9.8125 meters squared to that. And we get a total of 34.8125 meters squared for the area. Okay, now before you put your answers in your computer, please make sure that if it asks you to round, that you round to the proper number. For this one here, no need to round, but if we needed to, and I said round to the nearest whole, we would look at the 8, and that would round to 35 meters squared. If I said round to the nearest 10th, it would just be 34.8. If I said round to the nearest 100th, it would be 34.81. If I said round to the nearest 1,000th, it would be 34.813. So just make sure when you're doing these problems that you're checking to see what it's asking you to round to. All right, I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, once again, you can always contact me on Remind, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. All right, I miss you guys. Good luck.